time. Yeah, I always do these things where I really don't realize that my mic is off. So that's funny. Anyway, what is going on, guys? PoliticsGaming here. I've been speaking for 3 minutes without even knowing that my mic was off, so I apologize for that. Report interception. I intercepted a report from the food statistic, Mr. President. The situation is alarming in Azerbaijan. Thanks to 4H2 mission, this information will not spread. So, okay, so we're going to have to find something else that we can actually do. Let's go ahead and go to war with Armenia. So, one of the biggest things right now that you can actually probably see happening is that there is a situation very volatile between the nations of Azerbaijan and Armenia. So these two actually did go to war against each other back in '92 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Now, there is a situation between Azerbaijan and an Armenian-supported group right here in the right here in the. It actually doesn't border Armenia, but it actually is somewhat in this region right here, and this is called Nargo-Karabakh, I believe. I'm probably skewering that name, and I apologize for that. But what are you guys' thoughts on the situation? What are your thoughts on what is going on in Armenia? And do you think the Armenians are correct? Do you think the Azerbaijanis are correct? Or do you think the Turks should just roll right into Yerevan and just support their ally in Azerbaijan? Speaking of, let's go ahead and call for a meeting between my country and Erdogan. Meeting canceled, god dang it.
Pretext used.
Is that the domestic affairs have more of a whatever. Alright, let's go ahead and offer them an alliance just to make sure. And I'm going to prepare myself. Let's 70,000 troops. We have a really good, we can do better. Contract has been accepted, so that's good. We have new allies. Isn't Nagorno-Karabakh mostly Armenian and de facto self-governing? It's actually de facto Armenian. What I actually, from the research that I actually did, is that the region is actually, it's not even this area right here. It's basically this entire around this mountain chain that actually borders Armenia. So one of the biggest things is that not only is it de facto not Azerbaijani, it's actually de facto Armenian because it is so reliant on Armenia. Armenia basically supports it with money, with food, with supplies, with a lot of things that you would be supporting with yourselves. So Armenia is sacrificing a lot in terms of their own national resources to support this area right here just to get the Azerbaijanis to, I guess, hate them. It's always been like this in the world where there's always some sort of disputed land where both sides really, really want to keep that land, and I completely get it, but then at the same time, it's, I mean, several hundred troops have already died on both sides, so it's already becoming a bloody conflict. It's the bloodiest conflict since, I believe, 2008, somewhere around there, sometime. No, it was actually 2016 in which both sides ended up exchanging fire. And the reason the Azerbaijanis actually, Azerbaijanis are actually mobilizing. They are mobilizing all of their male troops into their military, and they're basically preparing for an actual full-scale war. So the situation, again, right now is very, very volatile, and actually I haven't seen any news on it so far. So let's go ahead and see what's going on while I actually check. So basically there are several... There's been a lot of artillery fire, and there has been a lot of tank battles, but I actually have not There's no news yet on what the allies of these nations will do, because one of the biggest things is that, let's get rid of this song. One of the biggest things is basically the Armenians are supported by the Russians, while the Azerbaijanis are not necessarily supported by the Russians, even though they were a post-Soviet republic. Basically, the Russians actually are not somewhat backing the Azerbaijanis. They're basically saying, hey, you both need to calm down, especially since it's Armenia that's actually the aggressor in this situation. But Turkey has completely said that they will defend Azerbaijan if they need to. So that means that if there ends up being a full-scale war between these two nations, we have the possibility of a NATO ally actually being sucked into the conflict because they want to defend Azerbaijan. And then that would mean a NATO ally would be going against the Russians. The Russians, in that case, could defend Armenia, and then that would set them on a collision course against Turkey and Azerbaijan. So that means, I mean, I don't know. It's completely, it's not a situation that I want to get even worse. Just hope Georgia doesn't get dragged into it. Yeah, Georgia is basically right in between these two superpowers, basically. Not superpowers, but very big regional powers. And I mean, what, back in 2008 the Russians did actually invade Georgia, so if Russia actually wants to do that, then I mean, they could actually swoop in during the whole chaos thing and then actually occupy and take Georgia, but the chances of that are very minimal, honestly. These are actually very independent. I actually tried to play as them and I didn't do that well. Alright, let's continue to keep track on my military. We're going to be increasing our military troops 5,000 at a time. We're going to try to shoot for about 100,000 active duty troops. Georgia is in the mountains, then they'll be fine. Well, they weren't fine in 2008. Okay, is there a defense contract with Turkey in them? I actually have a defense contract. I just signed a defense contract between Azerbaijan and Turkey. So just in case I actually do go to war, then we will be able to have an ally. But the chances of them actually coming into the conflict are very small. Let's look. Where are our troops? 11,000? Where are our troops? We have no troops. 18 fighters. 1,000 troops over there. 1,000 troops here. Huh, where are my troops? We have 67,000 active duty troops right now, and we don't even know where they are. That's a bug. We don't even have one military base. Let's actually hit this. Where are y'all? Oh, all of them are over there. God dang. They're all stuck in our, like, across the bay. They don't even, oh, that sucks. We need another military base. Military camp. You have no soldiers in... You have no soldier units in situation of setting up a camp. A military camp is a provisional camp. It may be set up in times of war over enemy territory. As long as the country on which the map is settled has authorized such settlement, only the soldiers' units are able to settle a camp. It costs $18 million and then $75 million over the next 5 years. What if we want to create... We could invest... $528 million into a brand spanking new military base, but can we do this? Can we actually allocate? We could actually allocate a good amount of these troops, 30,000, could we? My prediction is that at least in aggressive scenarios that NATO disavows Turkish actions, Russia invades Georgie boy and supports Armenia against Turkey and Azerbaijan with volunteers, money, and equipment. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Sounds actually pretty close to what I was thinking about. I mean, it could develop into a big World War I sort of situation in which they possibly could. I mean, Russia could come for Armenia, and then Turkey could come for Azerbaijan, and that would set both of them apart. The chances of NATO, I mean, honestly, within the next 10 years, Turkey might actually be removed from NATO because, I mean, they're not really serving the interest of NATO anymore. They are basically serving the interest of their own country, and they are going to become a pretty big player within the next 20 years. And I actually am considering making a series for Turkey, because this is actually a big thing. Turkey is going to become, I mean, I've had, 2 series on Turkey? So if I actually brought back the Turkey series, season 3, then that would be really interesting for me to actually not only lead Turkey through that change, but also developing it into my own image. That would mean that we would get involved in places like Libya. We could get involved in places such as Syria. Go ahead and start to play very heavy Turkish involvement in Syria. Maybe we could actually install a puppet government into Iraq. One of the biggest things that I would actually take advantage of is that I would be using my military to install friendly governments all across the Middle East. We could get involved in especially Iraq. Iraq really, really does not like Turkey, so that would be a really interesting war. We could get involved in... we could actually get involved in Yemen. I mean, there's no friendly allies over there, though. Greece, I mean... Turkey needs NATO more than NATO needs Turkey. However, worst case scenario is Turkey and Russia become allies and dividing up the Caucasus. Yeah, that could be a big thing. I've actually also considered making some map scenarios. If you guys actually are familiar with some of the map scenarios about the near future, where you're basically saying, like, you know, Russia's going to do this, like, kind of doesn't make sense, but then you're just doing it just because people like to see it. I've actually considered doing that because I have some ideas about how I think the geopolitical situation could actually change within the next 20 years. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, Turkey and Iran could actually become allies too. Erdogan likes to play Turkey and the West against each other. Yeah, see, if there's anyone that's gonna be at fault, it's gonna be Turkey. That's gonna pit the Russians and the Americans against each other. All right, let's go over to Army. Let's increase our troop numbers to 80,000. And rank 2 tanks. Rank 1, we could actually purchase some from the black market, which I'm gonna do. We actually have a riot right now in Baku. Let's 150 rank 1 tanks from the black market, $1.2 billion. We're going to go ahead and sign that agreement. And then we're going to go ahead and max out my one-time cost of missiles, just to make sure that we are very much armed against the Armenian menace. And in response to this, let's go ahead and send the military to attack and end the uprising. Greater funding. Did I just crash my game? Maybe. PG, will you be doing debate coverage tomorrow? I actually haven't considered that. Oh god, I think my game just crashed. Yep, my game crashed. Oh, can't handle Azerbaijani riots. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and close the program. I'm gonna put a transition thing on, and then we're gonna go ahead and launch the game back. LOL GG. I've actually not considered doing any debate coverage. I actually thought about I mean, I could it could be a possibility. I don't know. Anyone else here let riots get out of hand in non-capital cities that the protest group become outlaws? Is that what happens? Whenever you just completely ignore riots? That's interesting. I actually didn't know that, like, there's something that happens after you just, like, completely just ignore something. I guess they become a terrorist group. Just like Antifa. Alright, so let's go here. Currency. Azerbaijan's currency is actually pretty damn strong. 60 cents on the dollar. With a GDP of $47.2 billion and a share of 0.06% of the world GDP. Azerbaijan has honestly a very strong currency. Almost as strong as Australia's. I mean, the conversion rate is way better than a lot of other countries. I mean, Bangladesh's currency is complete garbage. Barbados has a pretty good currency, 50 cents on the dollar. I always forget to, like, change things. Oh, God, I'm, like, the worst streamer in the world, I swear to God. Alright, what I was actually saying is that Azerbaijan, I mean, look at this. Azerbaijan actually has a pretty mellow but strong currency compared to the US dollar. 2.6% inflation, and compared to the Australian currency, which is the Australian dollar, 70 cents. I mean, Azerbaijan and Australia have pretty similar economies, but I mean, obviously Australia is going to be the top economy compared to Azerbaijan, but Azerbaijan actually still has pretty good performance. Let's go ahead and see the world without COVID. Nothing unusual in the marketplaces of Wuhan, so that's good. They actually don't become terrorist groups unless they destroy something in the city battle. Okay, I actually understand that. Jay Mitra, also thanks for the PC advice. I think I told you I'm returning to that stuff, so I need a graphics card. I actually have a 1060. Getting ready to get rid of it and get a 3070 or 3080. I've thought about getting the 3080, but I'm hearing so much crap about it. Maybe I can find it on sale somewhere. What in the world was that? PG, what do you think is more interesting and has the most potential to play as Turkey or Azerbaijan? Well, let's actually do some comparing between the Turkish and Azerbaijani economies. So, one of the benefits actually of playing as Turkey is that not only do you have the chance of becoming a regional power, you have a lot of room that you can actually develop your economy to. Turkey is not exactly one of the biggest economies, but let's check a couple of their sectors. Do we actually have the chance to look at this? Turkey. Azerbaijan, Georgia, Armenia, and Cambodia. Oh, come on, you could have just put Turkey there. One of the biggest things about... You know what? Let's go ahead and do this. I'll show you who's the best one. Alright, let's do World Simulation, new game. Let's do the world without COVID. And let's go all the way up to T. Let's do Turkey. And I guess let's do Azerbaijan. We're going to go ahead and do both of them. I'm going to play as both of them. Alright, let's go ahead and change the title of this thing one more time. And Azerbaijan. Alright, and the title of this is now going to be Turkey and Azerbaijan gameplay. Maybe I'll find a final title at the end of this video, but... Alright, so one of the biggest things about Turkey is that their economy is very, very much underdevelopment, basically. Let's check to see what their most reliable sector actually is going to be. So we have almost $60 billion in the agricultural sector. If we go over to the industrial sector, we have $213 billion. And then if we go over to the services sector, they're actually a service-oriented economy. $427 billion allocated toward or being produced in the services tab. First off, let's go ahead and give $20 million to the attractions park sector, and let's exonerate them from taxes. We're going to boost up a couple of these sectors. We actually do this. I could actually pass it. Looks like the parliament that actually doesn't want to do that. Inflation, how to fight it. Basically, go over to your currency. Wow, we have a 15% inflation rate. Interest rate is 8.25. Interest rate exchange rate in dollars is 17 cents. So we actually have a much weaker currency compared to the Azerbaijani currency. Let's look. National deficit, they have a excess of God, that's me sneezing. I'm sorry. Ugh. God, that hurt. Yikes. So we actually have a couple of goals. So one of the biggest things actually whenever you start off as a country, look at your GDP starting off. And if you actually have a goal of where you want your GDP to be within 5 to 10 years, then shoot for that goal. Start signing contracts, promoting some growth. And so if I actually wanted to play as Turkey, on a long-term basis, I actually would shoot for about $1 trillion, $1.2 trillion, maybe even $2 trillion just over the next 5 to 10 years. What if the interest rate doesn't work? Basically, one of the biggest things that actually affects growth is not just... let me blah, blah, blah. God, I hate having to deal with these songs. Alright, so one of the biggest things that you actually have to do... Okay, I'm going to say this now. If you actually do anything with your sectors, farming, industry, services, or even energy, a lot of these constructions, a lot of these subsidizations, a lot of these exonerations are going to promote some kind of employment growth or economic growth. I actually am touching on this right now as I write the script for the economic tutorial 3.0. That's probably going to be one of my biggest videos of recent memory. So one of the biggest things about knowing economic growth, and I can actually pull this up with the manual, because I actually looked at the manual last night, and I'm putting a lot of stuff from the manual into economic tutorial 3.0. And one of the things that I discovered is that whenever you come over here to an industry, for example, and we want to grow my automobile construction sector, one of the best ways to do that is going to be through subsidizations. Another way to do that is to come over here and exonerate it. However, that's going to affect your tax income rate and your deficit. It's actually going to affect that because you're not going to be getting that much tax revenue from it anymore. So one of the biggest things for that is watch for what kind of contracts you are sending out. So if I go over here and I want to set up a meeting with the President of the United States, let's set it up for the 7th of January. And I'm going to go over to the 7th of January and I'm going to show y'all exactly what kind of contracts you need to be signing and what kind of contracts are actually dangerous for your economy. Mount St. Helens, is that erupting? No. Mount Baker? Mount Baker is erupting. Okay. How the heck is Turkey and the United States friends in this game? I actually don't know. Well, actually, one of the biggest things that actually brings your countries together is going to be your regime and your political party. If you have a similar regime, you're going to have really good strategic and economic relations with that country. So both of us share a presidential system, and then both of us are conservative rightist regimes. So not only do we agree with each other politically, we actually have the same exact model of economic or of, I guess, national importance. For some reason, it's really difficult for me to get my thoughts together. I can't talk. Check Syrian rebels stats. Which one? Jeez. 30,000 in the Syrian Kurdish Renaissance. They're communist political tendency. 1.9 million sympathizers. 30,000 people fighting for them right now. 380 mercenaries and 260 pickup trucks. Should we actually support them? Maybe. Nah, just kidding. That's really unrealistic for me to do that. Oh, we actually have some allies in the region. 2.4 million sympathizers, 22,000 fighters, 3,600 mercenaries, and 180 pickup trucks. Even though... Wait. Oh, okay, we have horrible relations with the Syrian government. So I guess in the Turkey series, we could actually go into Damascus, just march right into Damascus. There's actually a highway that actually leads over there. We can just take all the cities that are along this region. And what is their military power? 125,000 men against 355,000, even though as Turkey that could actually go up to 500,000. Al-Qaeda is dead. Actually, in the game, the game actually disagrees with you. Let's actually look at military, at the strategic map. In the beginning of the game, actually outside of Kabul is under military occupation. There's a conflict happening right along these regions right here. So in 2019, I believe it was this region right here that was actually occupied. But now in the 2020 edition, Afghanistan is basically split into two. So you have a lot of land that you can actually fight over, whether you're playing as the Mujahideen Afghan government. Why isn't Pakistan and Turkey great friends? Well, actually, as Turkey, you actually have pretty solid relations with Pakistan. Wow, they have a really weak economy. We have a way better GDP than them. They have 207 million people, and their GDP is only $284 billion. So it's actually a horribly weak currency. Pakistan has so much potential for growth. They have way more potential for growth than even Turkey has. This GDP should be at least 2 to 3 trillion actually. Let's go ahead and check on the situation in Azerbaijan. 2020, an unforgettable year, or a forgettable year without COVID. Pakistan's economy is not very diverse. Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to Turkey. And let's actually set up a meeting with Pakistan. We're going to set it up for that weekend. Alright, we have the meeting between me and the President of the United States. Create a sales contract. Let's go ahead and sell them. So one of the biggest things about trade contracts is that you are supposed to pay attention to the amount of the contract and how much it is related to your economy. So the way these contracts work is like this. So if I go to steel, what's something that I can sell to the United States? All right. So one of the biggest things that you must know about this economy, about the way this economy works in the game, is that whatever this number is how how much your GDP is going to go up. Every single time you're going to be able to do that. So let's go ahead and start negotiating this contract to what we want it to. So we're going to be able to get a very good price for this contract because the United States has a very high purchase price and we have a significantly lower sale price in comparison to their purchase price. If these numbers are actually very similar or closer, then you probably might want to find another trade partner. If you're playing as the United States or something like that, you're going to have a lot of difficulty doing that because you always will have the highest purchase and sale prices. So having these contracts as the United States is very, very difficult, which is a part of the challenge is playing as these biggest modern nations, is that you're trying to find ways to actually develop their economy while being already developed. The biggest thing about having these countries is that you don't have any development, so you actually have a lot of room for development. So if I actually wanted to do this, let's go ahead and set it for $2,000 a ton. Let's send that over. Automatically, they put it at $1,200 actually. So let's set it to $1,700 from... Well, actually, let's do $1,600 just to make sure that this offer is not going to be less attractive than the previous offer, because that's how you actually get the collapse of trade contracts. So we're going to actually shoot to try to get this over $25 billion. Can you rename Turkey to the Ottoman Empire? Possibly. Let's call this the Ankara Agreements. I like the name. Contracts, especially large contracts, after certain cities. So just as a play on words, maybe they met in the city of Ankara, in the capital of Turkey, and then they are negotiating this contract as we speak. So then I can negotiate this over to the United States. Then they set it to $1,200. Well, I don't want that, so we're going to set it to $1,500. Let's actually put it at $1,500 exactly. Well, actually, let's do $1,550. Try to get it $25 billion. All right, this is going to be my steel industry. All right, $22 billion. $23.1 billion. Let's do it. And let's set it for 3 years. You can actually do 5 years to 10 years. 10 years, one of the biggest things about this is that basically your economy is going to hold this for this amount of time. And I really need to check on that because I'm still developing the script. I'm still developing a lot of the theories and all that for the Power and Revolution economic tutorial. So I'm still kind of working on this. So I'm learning as I go. So one of the biggest things about the number of years for the contract is that it will hold this amount of GDP growth for this amount of years. And I'm going to go ahead and check on that. So take that with a grain of salt. But basically, whatever this amount in millions of dollars is going to be the amount that your GDP will grow immediately after this is done. So I can go ahead and negotiate it. It has been accepted. It will expire in January 8th of 2023. And you'll actually get a notification whenever these contracts expire, and that leaves you room to actually renegotiate it. So one of the biggest things about that is that contracts, don't look at these things as like a formal sale of, okay, it's going to actually be a formal sale. What I'm trying to say is that contracts are kind of misleading, and I kind of look at them in several different ways. Sometimes they can actually be made into free trade agreements. So one of the things that you can actually do whenever you create these contracts is that you can do sales of many different things. And one of the biggest things that you should actually do is let's do natural gas. No, I don't have any natural gas. Let's do, what's something Turkey has? Software, utility vehicle. Okay, we have to, oh wow, we actually have a lot of utility vehicles. Wow, we would be able to get a really good contract. Oh man, let's go ahead and do something like this. So one of the biggest things is that you really need to do a little bit of math if you really want to sign a really good trade contract. So $170,000 per unit. 132,000, that's actually really good. 145, let's do this. Let's call it the Istanbul Free Trade Agreement. So this is going to cost us, this is going to put $42 billion into our GDP. So whatever our GDP is right now, let's go ahead and try to check. So our GDP is $745 billion. So the steel industry is going to pump about 23 billion additional dollars into this GDP. And if I sign this contract right here, then that would cause $42 billion additional dollars to come into my GDP. So then that means I'm going to be getting more profits from those sectors, and then that means I'm going to get more economic growth from these sectors. So economic growth is actually the biggest misleading name in this game. The way economic growth works is that it is not your actual economic growth. It is not the growth of which okay, it is actually exactly what it's supposed to mean, except I don't think a lot of people understand what it means. Basically, economic growth is how much in the year that you were in 2020, your economy has grown. It is going to show that number, and then whatever large contracts in comparison to your GDP, so whatever percentage of this is, if someone can get me this number, someone can actually predict what this number is going to be of this number. And if we can actually show what that number is going to be, this is going to be the additional percentage of GDP growth that will be added into the Turkish economy. So let me negotiate this contract that has been accepted. If someone can actually get me that number, I will end this contract. We're going to go to the next day, country at risk, even though I just signed like several really big trade contracts. So it's going to show me the assessment. It's going to show me that there are 2 green smileys for those 2 trade contracts. One of them is going to be 16.4 million tons, 289,000, almost 300,000 units. So definitely sell those things if you have them. And then we have a total number right here. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of math. And we are going to add these 2 up. 42,027 million plus 187 billion. And that's going to be an additional $65.2 billion into the Turkish economy. If someone can get me, well, actually, let's do this. So 200, 600, and whatever. So that's basically my point, is that whatever percentage of $700 billion that $65 billion is going to be, that is going to be my economic growth. And again, someone please get me that number. So then if I really wanted to, I'm going to try to do that math. So let's do $745.8 billion. $745.8 billion. So something like 6 to 7% additional growth, if that is actually correct. Around 1/16 of the GDP of Turkey. So exactly. So if you're actually starting to get my point, it's really, really important to note that whenever you're negotiating this contracts, you really, really need to pay attention to how large these contracts are going to be. If they are anywhere close, I mean, look, my GDP growth is 0.904%. So let's check it in about a week. We actually missed a... So it's January 15th. Climate objectives, a reminder. Information on CO2 capture.
Well done. You have just signed your first contract. A note from my department.
Cancer.
Let's fight cancer. Let's go back to diplomacy. And let's see the utility vehicle agreements. And let's see what we actually do. And I'm actually going to go a lot more in depth into the trade agreement and how to get all of these to be smiley. So that's going to be something that I'm going to go through in the economic tutorial. I'm going to try to shoot for a release date maybe before the second presidential debate, maybe. So if you actually are interested in the economic tutorial, let's do that. Or when are you going to play TPP? I don't know. Manufacturing this product is profitable enough that exporting it will not destabilize our economy and will not have a significant impact on unemployment. So let's go to Russia. All right. Sorry, 15%. Okay, so we have a number which is going to be 15% of our economy. Public finances just hit, so let's check our growth rate. 6%. Our jumps to 6% in the first week. So from $747 billion, we are now at a GDP of $828 billion. So let's check to see if that number is correct. 828 minus 747. That is going to be 81. So that's a $81 billion difference between the GDP at the beginning of the game and the GDP after we just negotiated a $65 billion contract. So I could be wrong in terms of that, unless it is actually talking about the profits of that, and then the profits are actually being inserted into the GDP. Develop the defense industry. We already are, sir. Oh yeah, let's abolish the national service. I'm sorry, but we don't need that many conscripts anymore. We really need to rely on a professional army. Well, I mean, conscripts are still actually really useful in terms of getting those reserves built up, especially whenever you're in peacetime. I mean, at the same time, you're still able to actually run off of all your conscripts, but I mean, literally Argentina lost a war because they had so many conscripts. They didn't have a professional army. So conscripts are good, but at the same time, maintaining a professional army is actually one of the better options, and it's also cheaper. In some ways, it's actually cheaper. You missed the meeting with Pakistan. I actually did. We're going to have to schedule another meeting with Pakistan. Yep, they actually don't want to hear anything from us because we wasted their time. So that's unfortunate that we actually did not do that. We got a situation happening in Azerbaijan. Watch out for growth. The morale of customers is not at its best. See, one of the other things you really need to pay attention to a lot of these things, because these things will tell you, and it tells you that the game does have these issues. It literally says, watch out for growth. No doubt it would be good to stimulate growth by a vigorous relaunch of consumption, while also promote improving household purchasing power. So one of the biggest things is that whenever you do get that economic growth, you are basically invigorating consumption within your country. You should take over Cyprus. I should. Bomb Armenia. Countries full of liars and propaganda. Jesus Christ. I wonder if there's... I wish there was one option where, like, if you were playing as, like, a certain country that you could actually just hit a button and resign. You can do better. Country at risk. Slight reduction in numbers and extreme poverty. Watch out for growth. So public finances are still really good. So $830 billion is now our GDP. And our stock market is showing signs of growth. So if I actually do this, inflation seems to be trickling down, even if we have a 6% growth rate. So one of the biggest things about currency is that whatever your growth rate is actually going to be at, it is going to follow that number. So if you actually have a 2 to 3% growth rate, that is actually one of the best growth rates to have, because you're not going to be having that much of a issue with your currency. But if you're actually getting this up to like 20, 30, 40, 50%, that's one of the biggest things why a lot of your economies might run into these issues, is because you're signing contracts that are basically half the size of your economy. If you're playing as Georgia, as India, as some country, and then you come over here, if you're very oil dependent, you're going to run into issues basically where you're signing contracts that are almost as big as your economy. What's the size of Saudi Arabia's economy? $783 billion. A lot of times, whenever you actually play as Saudi Arabia and then you sign a contract to send oil over to the United States, those contracts end up being 300 billion tow of, or 300 million tow worth of oil. 300 million tow, which ends up being around $200 to $300 billion. And then whenever you do that with a GDP of $783 billion, I mean, you're signing contracts that are way more than a quarter of your economy. And that's somewhat unrealistic, because countries really don't do that, because, I mean, it's kind of obvious why. All right, does my mic sound good? I mean, someone said that my mic sounds weird, but I've actually thought about getting a different mic. All right, let's give him $250,000. I want to see what happens whenever we do that.
If we yield today, we'll be opening the door.
Yeah. Oh no, there's an election. There's an election in 2020. Is it a parliamentary election? Oh, it's a congressional election. It's going to happen on 2/9/20. We have 55.4% of the vote to 42.6% of the vote. Let's spend some money and let's subsidize agriculture. If we subsidize agriculture, that will net us a lot of approval. They must add military parades to show power and to make your population more warmongering. Yeah, that's actually a really good feature. We always support Azerbaijan from Turkey. Oh man, we're starting to get the Turks in here. Alright, so people from Turkey that are watching this video right now, what is the mood like in Turkey? What is the situation like? What are your thoughts on the situation between Azerbaijan and Armenia? And do you think that the Turkish government should get involved militarily and launch a full-scale invasion of Armenia? Is there a situation like that is being in talks? What is the situation like right now in Turkey? And if you could actually tell me where in Turkey are you? Are you in East Turkey? Are you in West Turkey? Are you in Central Turkey or around Istanbul and Ankara? What is the situation like in the region that you're in right now? Doesn't PG ever get bored of this? I got bored of TPP. That's why I stopped playing it. I love Turkey, but I am not Turkish. I dislike Armenia and Azerbaijan. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. I lived in Turkey before. Oh, that's really cool. I need a feature to make bridges and cut rivers inside of my country. Yeah, true. The EDA is not like NATO, where members have to defend members. It is an organization to help improve its members, but not actually militarily intervene. What is the EDA, actually? I've actually never heard of that. Earth Defense Association? We are just a couple of days from the Azerbaijani elections. So we have 59% of the electoral votes. 59, so we're 55%. How many turns are in this? Term limits. Let's go to elections. Program candidates. Independent party. Let's do some last minute meetings. With some of these, for these people that are running. Azerbaijan, Liberal Democratic Party. Are there going to be major losses within the parliament? No, looks like they're actually going to be getting the same amount of votes. But if we can actually form a coalition with the Liberal Democratic Party and get their votes over to us, then that could actually get us just a couple more seats. The more seats we actually get, the better. So let's go ahead and invite the Liberal Democratic Party over to us. And we're going to do that tomorrow. We're going to be focusing on Azerbaijan for a couple of minutes and setting an example. Extreme poverty making progress, and documentary on healthcare being banned. You read my response to an argument that's happening in chat. Don't worry about it. Oh, okay. EDA is the European Defense Agency. Okay. Let's do elections, and this is going to happen on the 9th of February, 2020, and the presidential elections are actually in 2023, so we don't have to worry about that. I should really think about having some mini-series going on where I actually like commit to like 5 episodes of a certain country and then basically like lead them through for like maybe a couple of months, couple of years. Liberal Democratic Party. Let's tell him he's radiant, tell him his militants can be proud of their leader, and what is his corruptibility? He's a very moral character, but can we encourage him to withdraw his candidacy from the elections?
I'm in a position to offend you, but if you wish to see things differently, I shall be obliged.
All right, we actually got him to do that.
Don't panic.
All right, we're going to get him to ask people to vote for us. That basically means we're going to net a couple of seats from that party. So can we do it against the Azerbaijan Democratic section?
Yes.
Tell him he's radiant. Your militants can be proud of their leader. And encourage him. Let's see if he's corruptible. He's very corruptible. He is very, very much corruptible. Yeah, COVID is actually disabled in this gameplay. Let's offer this guy a bribe.
Be more precise.
Ah, we don't have that much money.
Exactly.
Ah, crap. Okay.
I'm sorry, but we.
You mother. Damn. All right, let's go up a couple of days. And let's go ahead and hand a couple more subsidies over. Let's do $70 million. $70 million, and we're only spending $85 million. I don't think we're giving that many subsidies out. What about $5 million? Okay, I'm gonna do $100 million. There's something going on here, but it's not really reflecting what the heck I'm doing. Okay, we got our approval rating is 75%. Let's see how we do in these elections. Azerbaijan will take all of Karabakh because it's Azerbaijan's area. What I really want is to see if there's anyone from Azerbaijan or Armenia to tell me what the mood is like over there. Not only do I want to know what's going on in Turkey, I really, really want to know what's going on in these countries as well. The people love you. It's a really good message to get before an election. 7.42 million voters are called on to express their opinions through the ballot boxes. We'll have the results the day after tomorrow. All right, we're going to get these results on the 10th of February.
Good evening. The majority of votes have been counted, and we can now give you the first round results.
Oh, it is a 2-round system.
At this.
All right, the Liberal Democratic Party seems to have sat out the election, and the ADS only got 1.5% of the vote. 33% of the vote goes to the Independent Party, and now more than half the vote, 55, 60, 65. We got a good gain in the first round of election results. We have an awesome gain. 65% of the vote. That means we would get 65 seats in the Congress, or whatever the oh my god, there's a famine happening right now in Armenia. Turnout of 63% in the election. We're gonna go ahead and go forward a couple of days. We got protests just after the election. 7,000 people are now protesting. You got protests all over the country. That's huge that that after he wins 65% of the election results, that everyone just starts protesting. That's really ironic.
We could greatly improve our healthcare.
He wants to improve the healthcare system. What is their funding? $2 billion. Wow. Let's invest in more doctors. We're also going to... What is our differences? We could probably actually invest about $1 billion into $1.5 billion. It's going to cut our excess in half, but it's really improving our healthcare system. Turkey's ready to do everything for Azerbaijan at any stake. All right, the second round of election results are happening tomorrow. On a Sunday? No, on a Monday.
Good evening.
Alright, the ADS gets 1.84% of the vote. The Liberal Democratic Party still sits out the election, but our party, 57 is our goal. We exceeded that amount. 73% of the vote! Wow! Wow. Huge gains for my party. Huge gains. And we even won the artists, the associations. We won the athletes, the clergy, the intellectuals, the military, without even touching them. The unions are the only ones that we lost by more than 10 points, but we won everyone else by at least 10 points. We got the agricultural union, which is probably, honestly, one of the biggest ones. I'd have to check that number. Alright guys, if you are watching this, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to see more content like this, just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. 60% of the viewers on my channel are not subscribed to my channel, so if you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And if you want to become more, if you want to actually help me on certain videos, I could actually start doing actual live streams in which you could actually put your input. There's a hostage situation in Turkey. happening for 15 days. Let's go ahead and subsidize. Let's do $100 million. And that increases our deficit. We got 20 points in approval for that. 61% turnout in the legislative elections. Let's go to the 20th of February. And let's check the parliament, my power in parliament. Huge gains, 93 seats in the Azerbaijani parliament, 30 seats for the independent party, and wow. The Azerbaijani democratic section of the they lost considerably. They were the second largest party in the Azerbaijani parliament, and they got wiped off the map. The other one that was actually similar to ours is actually next one. We have this mandate for 5 years. We have 2 years or 3 years until the next presidential election. I need to do play as Azerbaijan on my own, honestly. Very interesting politics happening in Azerbaijan. I've actually never played as them before. I've played as them once. On what was it? It was a couple of years ago. There was actually a subscriber whenever I was really, really small, like less than 1,000 subscribers, and he always wanted me to play as Azerbaijan. He was from Azerbaijan. I don't know if that guy still follows me, but if you do, please comment down below and tell me how you've been doing. I have not heard from you in a long time. Journalist kidnapped in Azerbaijan by Azerbaijani Freedom and Democracy terrorist group. Negotiations at a standstill. Terrorists blame. I gave them $250,000. I gave them money. Azerbaijan is a model country for the World Bank. Speaking of the World Bank, I'm actually eligible to withdraw from the World Bank. How much do we have? We owe the World Bank $2.8 billion. If I can actually ask for $3 billion, well, I have an excess, so I mean, honestly, I don't have to worry about that. I'm spending $13 billion right now. I'm sorry, my spelling in the paragraph Azerbaijan, Armenia is very complex. It very much is. I definitely agree with that. Create a military alliance. Let's do an alliance. Let's do granted access rights. Let's give Turkey all of ours, and then let's give them permission to put one base in my country. Available position. You forgot to appoint a minister. Let's go ahead and do that. Agreement negotiation between me and Azerbaijan. Let's go ahead and accept that. All right, we're going to go ahead and then build a military base in Azerbaijan. When do you plan to Anschluss Armenia? There are 2 hostage situations happening now in Turkey. There are 2. Look at that, 2. Have you guys ever had 2 multiple? Yikes. Let's give Secret Services, agent training, and fight against terrorism more funding. It's going to be $2 billion. We can afford that. Cybersecurity. Let's do $1.5 billion for cybersecurity. Let's go to the 25th. They will execute him in 35 days. Sincere salutations from the Secret Services. And let's go to Azerbaijan. Let's fully fund a $1.5 billion, $6 billion military project in Azerbaijan. And let's build this base outside of Baku. is going to be our first overseas base. Turkey is now going to join the world community such as Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom, maybe even China by some extension, for deploying overseas bases. Let's cancel. We're not going to do that. We don't know yet the precise demands of the abductors, but we must do everything we can. Cyber protection has been engaged. Watch out for unemployment. Let's check my growth rate and let's check my inflation rate. Inflation seems to be going down. No, it's actually going up. It was actually 14.1 and now it is. Let's go ahead and put the interest rate at 10% exactly. Yeah, France is actually one of them too. Saudi is not Muslim. They will back Armenia, and the United Arab Emirates is already backing Armenia. See, there are a lot of powers at play here, and that's one of the biggest interests that actually makes me very much closer to the situation. Is that, I mean, Azerbaijan and Armenia are being supported by some of the biggest countries right now. I mean, big players in the Middle East. Not only that, the biggest superpowers in the world are at play. It's a scary situation, and it's not a situation that at least me as an American doesn't want to explode. They have one person, only one hostage. Come on. Turkey. Fatal earthquake in Baja California, sir. 1,686 victims and 304. Jesus Christ, that would be deadly. World War III would be a fitting end to 2020. Yep, it would. Exactly. That's why I don't want this situation to blow up. Because I don't want Turkey to Anschluss Armenia. And I don't want Azerbaijan to Anschluss Armenia. Because that means the Russians are going to invade them. And then if the Azerbaijanis get in, then the Turks are going to defend Azerbaijan from Russia. And then if the Turks are going to do that, then everyone is probably going to get really mad at Turkey. And then they're going to hit Turkey. Like, I mean, if anyone is Anschlussing anything, then freaking Turkey is not the one anyone expected to be the formidable power that we're gonna fight in World War III. Like, it's gonna be Gallipoli all over again, basically. The Turks fought off the English and French once. They're gonna do it again. Freaking Winston Churchill is gonna show up on their beach. Straight face smiley. Azerbaijan. Let's go over to Azerbaijan and start changing a couple of their laws. Contract accepted, and we do actually have a military base under construction in our territory. Approaching the terrorist group in Iraq. No, I'm not going to do that. If you need any help... Oh, okay, never mind. Flight radar 24 is down? What is flight radar? I've never heard of that. If you actually ask me, honestly, Armenia looks more like the aggressor in this situation. Azerbaijan, even with the historical ties to the region that Armenia has, even if they are supporting this region right here and it is very critical, I mean, in terms of that, you're basically still coming in and you're like, well, I'm gonna like expel my influence into a country that's not even mine. And even if I have historical context, that's one of the biggest threats right now, is that so many historical conflicts. I mean, Egypt and Ethiopia are set to go to war in the next 20 years just because Ethiopia is damming up the Nile River to a point that it is actually threatening a major refugee crisis in Egypt. That if the Ethiopians start damming up this area right here, I mean, it drains all the way out into Egypt. Sudan and Egypt are completely in danger if Ethiopia keeps this up. They are fighting over natural resources such as water. Water is going to be extremely important in the next 50 years because many countries in the world are going to start fighting over it. Possibly places within reach of these Great Lakes region. I mean, Uganda, Tanzania, the Rwanda-Burundi region, Tanzania and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique, Madagascar is surrounded by water. But the biggest players right now is going to be Egypt and Ethiopia. And then, I mean, I get what the Azerbaijanis are doing, and they don't want the Armenians, because basically Azerbaijan isn't only fighting the terrorist group, they're fighting the influence of Armenia being expelled, because Armenia basically has de facto control over this entire region right here. Power and Revolution doesn't show you that they have de facto control, and I really wish that this would actually be expanded upon in Power and Revolution, but Armenia, I don't know. Take back Jerusalem, please. Okay. Armenia is very aggressive, but I don't understand how they invaded Azerbaijan with such a weak army. Speaking of Azerbaijan, the president of Azerbaijan actually is ordering a general mobilization of the entire Azerbaijani military. Everyone that is militarily able to serve, they are calling them up, and they're enacting their reserves. They are enacting a full-scale military mobilization right now in this country of Azerbaijan. So if it expands, in the next couple of weeks are going to be extremely critical if peace is not achieved, because there is about to be a bloody full-scale war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And it is very scary to look at, because I mean, Syria is bad. There are millions of people that are fleeing the situation, fleeing in the countries such as Italy, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, because of the situation in Syria. Look how far Syria is. One of the biggest things that, and especially, it is very much in the interest of Europe to actually mediate peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and especially solving this Kirzbach, is it Karzbach? I believe it's, I don't know what the general name of it is. It's going, the Karzbach region is very much in the interest of Europe to actually mediate peace, because they need to solve this issue quickly before a refugee crisis even worse than the one in the Middle East is going to happen. Because there are going to be millions of refugees that are going to be fleeing Azerbaijan and Armenia if they start fighting, because they don't want to get caught into the crossfire. And especially, not only if the intentions of Armenia are going to defend this region right here, maybe they want to occupy more regions. So they would start swooping into the northern regions. They would maybe start pushing for their capitals. I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen, but it is a possibility. The only peace that will happen is if Azerbaijan concedes that it is not happening. Azerbaijan has too much to lose, and Armenia has too much of a need to keep the land. See, that's one of the biggest things. Nagorno-Karabakh. Okay, is it Karabakh? Is that how you say it, Karabakh? Armenia calls it the Artsakh Republic. Okay. I could call it Artsakh too. I actually found that name last night whenever I was doing research on the region. Let's go ahead and build up the Azerbaijani military. I'm going to add $50 million into the military. Let's go. Hope there's no protest, and there's not. I shared a map of the outcome of the war in the server, LOL. Let me actually check. Oh my god. Yeah, true. That's not going to offend anyone. Because one of the biggest things about the region in Ukraine was actually Eversim only, like in Masters of the World, the Ukraine was all one region. It was just one solid region. But then they actually ended up splitting it off into all of the regions that are actually relevant in the game. Actually, look at that. You got a little bit of a region you can actually cut off if you wanted to reunite the Czechoslovakia Republic. But yeah, just because of the situation that happened in Russia, East Donbass Autonomous League in Ukraine, they split Ukraine into all of these different regions, including Crimea, which can actually be reoccupied by the Ukrainians if you need to, and then the East Donbass and West Donbass regions. Eversim, especially with the Karabakh region, they could totally split Azerbaijan into some of the regions that are actually relevant. And if Armenia is actually split in the regions as well, they could actually do that even better. They could also even probably improve on the regions of Turkey, because it just seems like they just split it off into a bunch of just random regions. I don't think these are actually relevant to Turkey, and it would make Turkey gameplays a lot funner. How are the bugs with the 2020 edition? Pretty mild. I've run into a couple of them, mostly with the coronavirus. But it's kind of like tit for tat. I haven't run into that many so far, I believe. Can I change the electoral system? We got the voting age. Term limits of the head of state's mandate, which is unlimited, so that's actually pretty good, so I can run as many times as I want. 5-year head of state term, and 5-year parliament term, actually. We're actually going by a majority. It's actually not proportional, so that's actually probably... I think I actually remember them doing this. We probably actually ran through the first election in which the law was actually changed to a majority system instead of the proportional system. That's actually really interesting. The game has been buggy for like 5 years and won't be fixed anytime soon. Yeah, I get that. Ukraine is supporting Azerbaijan, they said yesterday. Jeez, really? Let's check my GDP. Growth forecast is 11, almost 12%. My GDP is $836 billion. Look at that. My main production comes from utility vehicle construction, and then tourism and hotel trade, building, housing, and roadway, then steel, vegetables, chemicals, coal, clothing, automobiles, and fowl. Wow, we have a lot of fowl. 3% of my national sales comes from chickens. Let's look. Foul. 1.8% of the world's production comes from Turkey. 1.3% of the world's consumption comes from Kentucky. We have a positive trade balance of $708 million, up from $705 million in the previous year. We are making $13 billion worth of sales in fowl. $13.6 billion. I've never seen so many chickens being sold in this game. $3.2 billion in profits. What is our nationalization status on this? It would cost $50 billion for the Turkish government to completely seize the means of production of the fowl industry. And we would want to go off of that. But if we only did it with a minority shareholder, that's about $15 billion. We only need cereals and maize to actually support the sector. So cereals, what is our production in cereals? $328 million in trade balance, $6 billion in sales, and $1.7 billion in profits. Turkey's from Turkey. We actually don't have any production of turkey. We only have fowl. They really go off of the, which is really interesting. And it's actually, fowl is one of the producers. It's actually one of the sector needs for the fast food sector. The fast food sector is actually really interesting to support because they actually need several different things. They need beef, fowl, potatoes, cereals, and sodas. So you can really put a lot of energy into developing your fast food sector. In the Power and Revolution Economic Tutorial 3.0, I actually plan on trying to help you increase your sales and increase your profits, as well as increasing your production, and as well as understanding the information on the activity of that sector. And we're also going to be going through production, consumption, imports, exports, of those sectors, and then we're going to go through the GDP, corporate tax, employment of the sector, the balance of trade as well. Then we have volume by year. Let's look at this. Let's look at farming. Cannabis is still illegal. Cocaine is still illegal. I wish it would. See, come on. They let us. Y'all need to start pushing for something like this. We have the ability to legalize cannabis. We need the ability to legalize cocaine. And if I play as Britain, I absolutely deserve to be able to have the opportunity to sneak opium into China to destabilize China. If I want to sneak opium into the People's Republic of China to cause another national collapse, that is my opinion and my opinion alone. It is not because there was a time back in the 1890s that actually happened. Don't ignore the Opium War. Don't ignore the reason why the United Kingdom actually seized the island of Hong Kong from the Chinese. That was not because of opium. I have a very original idea that allows me to go over to opium and sneak it into China. That is my option. What does the fast food sector exactly do? I can't export it, but does it attract tourism? No. One of the biggest things about developing sectors that don't have the ability to be exported, especially your service industry, your services industry are going to garner a lot of tax revenue from your country. So a lot of these things are like tax. Come over here. You're going to be getting a certain amount of tax revenue from these sectors because they are so lucrative and they have a lot of profits that they actually can make. I mean, what? Services. You're getting 31% of your revenue from this. I mean, $69 billion in profits, and you're taxing that. So one of the biggest things is that you're taxing the profits and sales of the sector, and then these companies that are a part of these sectors have to pay you in tax revenue. And then you, in return, even if you were a free market economy, you can benefit off of those tax revenues. Yusuf, thank you so much for being here. Isn't China a major source of cocaine now? Let me actually check. So anyone from Turkey, tell me what the situation is like. What are your thoughts on the situation between Armenia and Azerbaijan? Do you think Turkey should come alongside their Azerbaijani ally? And do you think that it is right for the Turkish government to do that? And even then, what are your thoughts on Erdogan? Do you think that Erdogan is a good world leader? Do you think he is doing good in terms of helping Turkey get back into the international scene? Turkey, 0.34% of the world's production of opium comes from me, but most of it comes from Afghanistan. So that's funny. 3.1% of the world's opium comes from Mexico. Jesus Christ. Who has the most in sales? Afghanistan makes $3.8 billion in sales off of opium. Let's look. Tons by year. 36 tons. So who does the most in worth of tons? 8.5 billion tons. 8.5 thousand tons, actually. Okay, so that's thousands. We are doing 36 tons. Iran does 90 tons. Pakistan does 112 tons. Balance of trade, $194 million positive trade balance for the Afghanis. Wow, $481,000 per ton in terms of opium. Speaking of taxes, raise the Turkish sales tax, services tax maybe. I am from Pakistan and we love Erdogan. Can you play as Hong Kong? I cannot. As much as I don't want to say it, Hong Kong is a part of China. Hong Kong is a part of China in this game, so there's no opportunity for you to play as Hong Kong or Macau. Macau, where is Macau? Actually, Macau doesn't even exist. Oh, Macau's right here, but it's not even an island. How many people are there? 47,000 people in Macau? That's wrong. Hong Kong Island, 1.2 million people. It's 47,000 in Macau. I swear there's so many more. No. Since Hong Kong was handed over to the Chinese in 1997, even then they were still always considered a part of China. They've just always been a special administrative region of China. They're an SAR. So basically that means territorially they have no anonymity. They have no autonomy. They have no ways of actually being independent in terms of trade. Or in anything. They've always just been considered just separate from China, but also a part of China. That they are their own kind of free society inside of the People's Republic of China, which is communist. However, now that situation has changed, they obviously have lost their rights. They are see, one of the issues is that it was a criminal extradition bill. So they basically, the worst case scenario that the Chinese could do is that they could just pick anyone that would be dissenting against them. And there's no proof that they have done this yet, which this proof might come out in the future. But one of the things is that China would be able to come out and pick anyone that is against them, and then they would be able to throw that person in jail in terms of threatening national security. Now, the chances of this happening are very not minimal, but I mean it could happen because it's within China's power to do so. However, the United Kingdom has offered that. Wow, the United Kingdom likes Turkey. That's wrong. Germany likes Turkey. Well, ugh, God. But yeah, that's a gist of that. The United Kingdom has actually offered 3 million people who were born before the 1997 handover free citizenship to the United Kingdom. So that means that they would become citizens of the United Kingdom and thus would be immune, basically, from persecution from the Chinese government. And they're handing that over because in terms of that agreement between the United Kingdom and the People's Republic of China being violated, that would be a solution that the United Kingdom would hand over to those Hong Kongers that were born before the handover. Macau population is 696,100 people. Yeah, I see. That's what I thought. Does this game include breakaway states and non-governmental entities? Breakaway states can include Abkhazia, South Ossetia, the East Donbass League, in which they call it the East Donbass Autonomous League, is a breakaway state. Somaliland and Puntland are actually states that are breakaway from Somalia, from the federal government of Somalia. There are several breakaway states, or I think it's actually just the one conflict. Yeah, it's going to be the one conflict between the jihadist army in Yemen and the actual government of Yemen. In Libya, there are several different states at war in Libya, and there is only one region actually controlled by the entire federal government of Libya, which is in Tripoli. The Tarabulus region is actually controlled by the government of Tripoli, which literally you can either call it Libya or you can just call it Tripoli, because their control is basically minimal. They have a little bit of control over this region right here. However, the only controls of regions they actually have extends from this region right here all the way up to Tripoli. But the rest of the regions are actually being controlled by rebel groups. Mali is actually under criminal occupation. Nigeria seems to be under criminal occupation. Let's see who else. Yeah, poor Libya. It looks like Egypt is actually at war with someone. Jihadist Caliphate, the Islamic State, is actually under control of several different regions. No, it looks like, okay. Gotta get rid of this song real quick. So if I actually go over here, so basically this means that there is battles. There is conflicts currently happening in this region. So that means that there are conflicts currently happening in even the capital region of Egypt and the Sinai Peninsula. There are conflicts happening, but there's no actual occupation. But the black actually means there is actual criminal occupation happening in these regions. When is the Islamic State? When the Islamic State seizes the Suez Canal? Yeah, sure. That could actually be something. Looks like there are some... I like how... I wish there was a way for you to actually declare no-fly zones. So if you actually wanted to declare a no-fly zone, it would definitely have to be done through the United Nations. But if you wanted to declare a no-fly zone, then that means that in terrorist-occupied areas like Libya, Egypt, even Syria could actually have no-fly zones being permitted over them just to prevent civilian aircraft from being shot down in those regions. Because if there was a feature that actually had random shoot-downs of civilian airliners, because that has been happening a lot in the past 5 years, way more times than is comfortable to count. I mean, freaking Ukraine, that Malaysia Airlines got shot down. The Iranians shooting down that Ukrainian Airlines jet over Tehran in the beginning of 2020. There's been not even countless, but there have been plenty of airline shoot downs that have been happening that have just been like, why the hell are you shooting down people that you don't even know? Can you make a Let's Play as Norway, Sweden, or Switzerland? Possibly. Lime Among Us. I haven't even played that game. Is that game any good? When are you attacking Armenia? I don't know. I'm still in March. I've been live streaming actually for an hour and a half. I've actually captured done a CO2 capture, so that's awesome. Or do Azerbaijan. Elections. Let's get right into the news. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have any pensions, actually. Retirement using capitalization, $14 million extra. Regulate the consumption on marijuana. We could actually do a decriminalized state. No one would actually like that, so we're not going to do it. Hope the Yemeni war ends. It sucks in Yemen. Yes, it does. Don't expect peace in the Middle East, I know. Any spots for Azerbaijan for new oil wells? Let's actually check real quick. Speaking of, I seriously need help, honestly, like getting $6 million. I do need help getting $6 million. By the way, if you guys are watching, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and if you want to support me, super chatting is always appreciated. Super chatting really does help me out. If I can actually super chat a little bit during this live stream, that would actually be pretty cool, especially since it's getting up to the end of the month. Yep, we actually have a couple of oil wells we can actually pull from. We have very limited manpower as Azerbaijan. That's one of the downsides of it actually. Very weak. We're gonna go ahead and just go off of that that oil well. Very good view of the Caucasus region right here. The game is better than 2019. Yes, it is. When did you start the stream? About an hour and 40 minutes ago. I don't know why. Alright, guys, if you guys like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm going to go ahead and head out and eat something. I have not eaten something since I got up this morning. So, thank you. 400 people have watched this live stream. So, again, thank you guys for participating in this live stream, and thank you all for being here. Had a very consistent amount of people. 30 people have been watching this for a while now. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm going to go ahead and head out for today. But go ahead and join the Discord if you have not, and then we can actually discuss things over there. Go ahead and prepare for the presidential debate tomorrow. I may or may not live stream during that. Definitely would have to be different from my previous live stream whenever I whenever I got banned from live streaming for a couple of months by YouTube because I copyrighted the Democratic debate for some reason, and I didn't even know I was doing it. I was just trying to shut up the entire time, but I guess I can't do that. So next time, if I do it tomorrow, would be me talking every now and then. But anyway, guys, if you guys like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.